pals, to another episode of Dad's Toy Garage, and I'm excited to bring you another episode of Project Judith Ann, my 1973 Toyota Celica, and we are working on this chin spoiler from Toy Sport. It's going to turn out sharp looking. You can see how far I've got it. So follow along, let's have some fun this episode, and let's get into this. I'm now working on the back of the doors and door jambs in the car so I can bolt this thing back together for another sand with the block. And I've scuffed everything with these red scuff pads on the back side, and now I'm going to give it a bit of a guide coat, and we will wet sand that just to make sure there's no texture, just on key areas, not like the whole back or the bottom won't matter as much, but that way when I'm done with wet sanding, it is ready for base coat pretty much, I guess, if we don't go through anywhere. I'm just using Duplicolor sandable primer. That's about all I'm going to wet sand on this door. Plus this part. So for wet sanding, red is 600 grit. We'll finish with that. And my gray bucket is 400 grit. And in the door jambs here, I'm literally just keeping the paper wet. I'm not even sponging it. But I'm going to do it all by hand. I've blocked it. And now this is really just refining the blocking by taking a lot of the texture down. And so you just go in there. And you just start sanding. And you can kind of see how as it gets knocked down, it gets smoother and smoother. So I'll do the whole thing like that, and then I'll come and blow it off with air, guide coat it, and do it one more time with 600, and I'll be ready for base coat at some point. And I have done this is my second round of doing this block sanding priming, and now we're just finishing with the wet paper. I just got these parts back today from Envirotech powder coating. That's their logo there. So I got the top hats done. I actually went and cut these down. They're the original spring seat. They'll go on the top of the strut. You'll see that later when we put the suspension back on the car. I got the calipers done. They're in a high temp powder coat. So we're going to rebuild those the day we put the car on the suspension and off the rotisserie. I got the caliper brackets. And you can't see it in the shop here, but I didn't realize it. There's actually almost a bit of a sparkle to it. I got them done in a semi-gloss because I've heard brake fluid can discolor it a bit, but it kind of holds its strength against the brake fluid to some degree. So that should help. If it discolors, it's not going to take the shine off. And they kind of look factory like this. I know the original ones were silver or were they cast. They just did all one color. It'll look great on the car. So here are the pieces that I just had powder coated. I showed you just in the previous clip. They're on the top of my coilover struts, or coilovers, whatever you want to call them. Originally they were struts, but I cut them, trimmed them up, made them look the part there, nice, neat, and tidy. Here's my dad, and I've learned a lot from this guy through life. Obviously, growing up, he's a great dad to have. I've been struggling with this roof for like 30 hours. It's been bugging me. I've been like, I primed it, filled it, filled it, and I guess you described as getting lost in there, hey?
Yeah, you can get lost in there, yeah.
So what took me that long, he's fixed in like 20 minutes or less.
Whenever you got something that's softer, you gotta take the block, and you gotta just let the paper do the work. Don't put the pressure on it. Feathered edges come out, looking at one, and then you got it. There you go.
So I pulled this off the shelf. I had to give it a good dusting, but it's my front chin spoiler from Toy Sport. And I'm not sure how many of you guys have seen the earlier video where I modified it, but I used the brackets. The metal brackets have been glued on there with an adhesive that's meant for metal. And the brand, I think, was Plexus. I got it from work. But I need to go over this spoiler. There's a couple things. I've had self-tapping screws to hold all the brackets on to allow the glue to dry. So those have to be filled. But I also got to check it for cracks. Fiberglass it does that, especially being shipped. So we work with motorhomes at work, and basically what I'm going to do is take a Sharpie to it and a little bit of gun wash, and if it soaks in anywhere, I found my crack, and those will have to be ground out, then filled it up with fiberglass filler. So I'm going to get rolling on that. I've took the Sharpie to the whole thing and I gun washed it, and it helps you find cracks. Let's see if we can find some here. Any crack that's in there will really show up later. Right here, I didn't see that before with the white gel coat. There's another one here. See the hairline in there? It looks like a little hair. I knew the corners had it, but it helps me outline all the cracks in there. Got a bunch in here. So there's more on there, but that gives you an idea what stands out. So the next thing I'm going to do is just take my die grinder, and basically I'm going to run it along those areas that have cracks, get nice and itchy, which is going to suck, and it'll get filled with green filler after that. So yeah, that's the process on this spoiler. Fiberglass is not fun, but it'll look like a beauty when it's done. You can see all the spots where there was cracks in this part, and it's amazing how much you can find on a brand new part. I noticed there was a lot of air pockets in here as well when I was grinding, so I had to take some of them down a little farther to make sure they didn't come back. But the next thing I'm going to be doing is taking some short strand fiberglass filler, filling these in, trimming them off with the knife. I think I'll have to do about twice before I start the actual body work on this thing, of getting it straight. I filled and trimmed almost everything on this front lip here. I'm going to quickly sand it with some coarser sanding paper, maybe 80 or 120 grit, just to knock down most of it while it's not fully cured. I got just the last couple spots here, and then I can move on to body filler with this piece after I scuff up and get rid of all the Sharpie that's on there. And the front spoiler fiberglass filler is sanded, so now I got to go back onto the regular filler onto this thing, and she's pretty straight now. I've got everything blocked down on this front chin spoiler now. I actually went over this surface here, because it's kind of got a bit of wave, and I've looked at a couple of Celica's photos or Celicas, whatever, the photos online, and it's a bit of wave in here, and I could see where it comes from, so I blocked that out. I'm gonna have to high build prime this piece again. I'll probably put, if you get up close in here, there's a bit of pinholes. I'll probably skim it with some body filler and hit it with 120, and then give it another high build. And such is the way this goes, but that'll be a nice looking spoiler when it's done. Thank you again, Joel at Toy Sport, for sending this out to me. I had really good service with Joel, so I know there's comments online that say otherwise, and there's positive comments, so I only have positive things to say about Toy Sport at this point. So thanks again, Joel, for a great product. The other thing I should make note, I've added drain holes, 1, 2, 3, because when the car when this is on the car, it does not sit level like this, it actually sits like this. So when I go to wash the car, it's just gonna have a lake sitting in there. So we don't want that, and because when I drive it'll always be splashing water out. So that should help. Maybe I'm wrong on that, but now there's drain holes. So major body work's done, shaping that is. I've now skimmed everything over to cover pinholes a little bit before I put primer down. That should help fight some of that. Once you sand through the gel coat, you're gonna have pinholes that you got to deal with. So I'm gonna block that down, I guess, with a 120 down to 220 kind of thing, and then we'll hit it with primer after that, block it again, and it'll be ready for, most likely ready for putting paint on. We got the whole car minus the fender sanded in 320 grit, and there's a couple spots that need a little bit of attention. For example, sanded through right here, little spots like that, so I'll have to do some spot priming. And then the roof will need one more shot here, where my dad did a little bit of help with me on the roof there. This spoiler is done. It's in 220 grit. It's ready for primer. And the doors and trunk lid are also sanded down, and you can see a couple tapes on them. They're going to need a spot prime as well, and then those parts will be done once the car is on the wheels and fully assembled. Like engine bay and hood need to be done yet for body working, and then I can wet sand the car at that point, so it'll be ready for base once those couple steps are done. But we're pretty close here. Just finished priming the car. I actually did it yesterday. Got the roof skin reprimed again. It's looking pretty good now. We're pretty close with that. I'm very thankful that my dad was able to come give me a hand with some of the parts I was struggling on here. Some other spots done, so the next step will be wet sanding this thing. You can see where I've spot primed a couple items here, and the extra block sanding I would say paid off. I gave this top stretch an extra coat of primer, but I'm not seeing much flaw in that line now, so pretty happy with that. And onto this here, the front spoiler came out really well. I'm impressed. I thought there would be more pinholes. We got a couple in this area here, for example. I'm going to take some filler and go over that. You can see a couple little spots in there. But looking down the side, you can see it needs a bit more work, but not bad already. It's getting pretty straight. So do a little filling on those and then we can block sand again. Got all the pinholes filled on this front lip. Chin spoiler, depends what you want to call it, I guess. And just skim coat on there, shaved it down a little bit. Nice thing of having a drain hole in my front lip, when I was painting, I could literally just have it sit on there and not touch anywhere. That worked pretty good. So there's a couple little things, because I had a little bit of wave left in here. Then I was fill that up a little extra, and there was a little bit of an issue here still from one of the cracks I ground out, so it'll get another primer after sanding again. Thanks guys and girls for stopping by on this episode of Dad's Toy Garage, working on Project Judith Ann. If you guys love what I'm doing, feel free to hit that bell to get notifications of new episodes. Typically I try and put them out every other Tuesday. Feel free to subscribe if you like the content and want to see more of what's happening with this car. Race car's been on hold a little bit, you've probably noticed. With the COVID-19 stuff going around, me and Tony haven't really got together to work on it, so we've kind of decided he's going to work on his project and I'm going to work on my personal project. And someday we'll want to introduce Tony's project to you guys, but he would like to have that thing pretty close to done before we show that off. Next time we are going to be working on getting it on suspension. You've seen last episode, and now this episode it is sitting on the wheels. I've got a couple videos in the works, so this thing's on the wheels. I'm excited about that, and we'll show you how that happens next time. So stay safe guys, have fun out there in your garages building what you guys are building, and thanks again for watching. I appreciate you guys checking out what I'm doing, dropping the comments, and I always look at those comments. So until next time, we will talk to you guys later.